Welcome back, guys. I am so excited to have my guest today. He is a 15-time national champion when it comes to action shooting. He is a USPSA first ever multi-gun triple crown winner, and he's the last combat master champion with a pistol. He has trained athletes and artists and movie stars, Hoist Gracie, Jamie Foxx, Keanu Reeves for all the John Wick movies, Halle Berry, Post Malone, Cameron Diaz, Michelle Rodriguez, Chris Pine, Michael B. Jordan, John Berthal, Thomas Jane, to name a few. And he is also the creator of the gun that Lawrence Fishburne said, I know a guy who knew a guy who shot a guy in John Wick 4, the Pit Viper and the Sand Viper. Please welcome Taran Butler to the program. How you doing, Taran?
Good. Thank you having me on, Michael. It's so fun. I watch your show. It's great.
Man, I really appreciate it, man. So I'm a bit of a gun, I was in the military for 7 years. I was a bit of a gun nerd there for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of Call of Duty, a lot of going out with my friends and shooting M14s and AR-15s. Watching what you do, I can't imagine just going to work every day. Just must be a blast.
It's fun. It's surreal because, I love movies as much or more than even guns, whatever. It was pretty much the same. My whole life loved watching Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Stallone, what are you doing? All the fun stuff, Arnold in the day. And just to kind of, for my world of what I do in competition, led into Hollywood, even though I love Hollywood. And to be on the range, and it's kind of surreal to be sitting there with someone that you've watched for 20 years in movies, and you're just hanging out, having a good time, learning, training, and just the respect they give me towards what I do is really cool too. It's surreal and it's fun.
One of the things I really appreciate is the transition from, say, the mid-'80s Schwarzenegger, Stallone movies with a lot of hip firing of like large caliber machine guns and, the cup and saucer pattern with the handguns, to where you apply in the reloads, the tactical reloads. You, I think, are you have a great deal to do with why Hollywood now has much more tactical looking SWAT episodes, etc., is because of some of the training that you do.
I've been very lucky for all the years of Hollywood training. A studio would just find a guy with like he's a 15-year Navy SEAL, whatever, and all that stuff. And these guys have been doing this in Hollywood since the 70s, almost every one of them. And my style of shooting to win 3-gun competitions, multi-gun competition, 2-gun competitions, pistol, you have to be like lightning fast and also know your equipment, the details of all of it. And for the 30 years I've won stuff, for the director of John Wick and J.J. Perry, who just did Day Shift, all these guys, they saw my style and they brought me in. And I'd done films before. I worked on Miami Vice with Colin Farrell. I worked on other fun films, Johnny Depp and Public Enemies, other projects. But that was when things really took off for me. And then when all the other actors saw that famous video of Keanu running that course with the yellow car and the 3-gunning and just laying waste, everybody's like, that's a stunt man. It's not him. And then at the end of the video, I put a longer version out that shows him turn around without a cut. It is him, not a stuntman. And I do train both of his stuntmen, but they're not at his level because he trains more. It changed the game in Hollywood. And before I knew it, everybody was coming out. It was like a game changer. Like, go back in time to when Steven Seagal did like Above the Law, everybody's like, oh my God, this guy's the real deal. He's a real fighter.
Yeah.
So other actors couldn't just rely on dorky fights, with like Roger Moore karate chopping a guy and Moonraker. What they were like, well, Seagal might look stupid with his hair or whatever, but he could beat your ass,
Yeah.
And those are the arguments. I used to work, in security back in the day, like, he's the real deal. He'll kick your ass. And so this was like a bit of a game changer for Hollywood, is like whoever this guy is that trained them, it kind of put a shock to the system of the other trainers that this old technique of letting people have cup and saucer, dorky grips, don't let the actor do a reload, just load the mag for him and fire 1 billion more rounds out of his 5-shot 38 and all that junk. Not that it totally ruins a movie, but it really hurts a movie, and a lot of that is I've been on a lot of movie sets and people have been doing stuff for 20, 30 years. You can't blame them. They get complacent, they get tired, they just want to get paid, they want to go home, they don't care. And I really care. I really want the movie to look as best as possible. And sometimes it's out of your hands. That you could do the most awesome reloads, whatever, and an editor will ruin it. Like the other day, I was talking about how on Tomorrow War, like Gary Tours, he does movie Hollywood Guns. He's amazing. He's done much of the John Wick franchise, and they had Chris Pratt loading like crazy with the AR on the stairwell, with the alien coming down like a maniac, shredding and loading in the parking lot, grabbing mags off dead guys, whatever. And then you watch the movie, it's a 10,000 round AR. He's just sitting there like,
wow,
for 1,000 million rounds. And and that's out of their hand. They did everything they could, and some editor messed it up. And I don't like that. Those guys should be called out. You're jacking shit up. Count the rounds. I mean, it doesn't got to be exactly 30 rounds, but when it's 270 rounds out of a 29 round, 30 round mag, it's ridiculous. You know?
The quad loading of the shotgun by Keanu Reeves, which is that something you taught him how to do? That to me is one of my favorite parts of the movie because it's not sped up. It's actually, it almost looks a little bit awkward when he turns the shotgun upside down and he loads it, but it makes it seem so much more authentic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have the actual shotgun from the movie here in the background. Let me get it.
That is it's on an AR-15 platform.
Oh, you're talking about the Genesis.
Oh yeah, the Genesis. Yeah. So this is a different one.
So there's three, like this in John Wick 2, we did a Benelli M4, and at that time in 3-gun, the most realistic way to load was a caddy that holds 4 shots, practical and tactical. You could fall down, roll, the rounds won't come off, and he was loading 4 underneath the bottom. Like you snatch out 4 and go put them in. Then he did the match saver, which everybody couldn't figure out what that was. It blew their mind in the training video and in the movie. He does it. But then everything was kind of fun. It kind of all progressed with the movie franchise, progressed with competition. By the time John Wick 3 was coming around, quad loading was out during John Wick 2. So I got some trolls on Instagram like, why isn't he quad loading? Your style's a little bit outdated. and it's like, look, jackass, the quad loading devices when they first came out were so flimsy and ridiculous. You bump a guy and it's a freaking yard sale. There's shotgun shells everywhere. So he's going to be in the catacombs of Rome. I mean, a call from the director like, you idiot, we got 10,000 takes every second. These shells are falling off the guy. We got to CG everything. Like, you know, I didn't want to do that. But by the time John Wick 3 came along, okay, the director pushes me like hard, and it made me a better trainer across the board. Everybody on the cast is just on top of it with the 8711 guys. We get into that later. So I thought, okay, now it's time. We went with a 3-gun Benelli, which is this is the actual gun from the movie. This is the rubber. They call it the rubber. I call it the stuntman gun. This is a gun you could hit people with, throw across the room. Like when he throws the MPX, that's laying over here in the corner, rubber one. So we went to quad loading. So you flip it over, snatch out 4, and do the thing. And everybody's like, what is he doing? What is he doing? And even the director was cool because he's like, doesn't even matter if they don't know what he's doing. They're going to watch it so many times and figure out what the hell he's doing. And that was so great about working with Chad and JJ Perry and all the guys is that in previous films I worked on, it's like, can we teach the actor just to do just one good reload in this scene? Like, no, there's no time for it. Nobody cares. As long as it it fires. And he wants everything. But then as the movies progress, then we go to John Wick 4. It's like, what can I do? We've kind of exhausted the Benellis. He's got the M4, he's got the M2. They're as good as it gets with a tube-fed shotgun. So what is the next thing? Well, we were going to put the Genesis in John Wick 3. The gun wasn't ready yet. The director chose to go with the Benelli. But by the time John Wick 4 came out, we had the Genesis. And the Genesis is based on basically like an AR-10 platform. It's based on AR. The most easy, understandable system out there. So, and it's reliable. Because when I won my Triple Crown, I did it with a mag-fed shotgun, but it was an AK platform, a Sega, and it jammed the first time I ever used it. I give up. This gun, these mag-fed 12 gauges don't run. The round is too blunt, too fat, can't get the feed ramp. And many years later, Genesis, reached out to me through Eric Kinsel at Bravo Company, put me in contact with them in like 2018. Been working on the gun ever since, give them my feedback back and forth. They're also masters at what they do. And this is the ultimate shotgun for the fastest reloads, and reliability is insane. Like it feeds everything all the time, every time. And we want John Wick just to have the most devastating, crazy shootout with the Pit Viper. He's got this and the Pit Viper in John Wick 4. And it's the most awesome, like one shot above camera shot. If you saw the movie.
It looks like Diablo. It's third person God mode. You're watching it from above. That was an incredible shot. And this is where he has the dragon breath, right? He has how does dragon breath, for those of you who don't remember in the movie, it's the exploding shotgun rounds. How does that work? What's the chemistry behind that?
It's like a fireball. It's like it like burn. It lights things on fire, but they also have versions that have buckshot and birdshot inside of them. So those versions, there's one version is just the fireball for fun, at a point blank, you don't want to get hit with it. But for the movie, he would have been shooting the kind that has either buckshot in it, probably mixed with fire. So he's blasting them across the room and lighting them on fire. So it's just a way to make the scene even just more insane and never done.
Is it thermite? Like, what are they using in the to cause the explosion?
I don't know. It just put in the movie, and it's crazy, and it's also cool because I've seen the scene a bunch of times, and he's literally reloading every 10 rounds.
It's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So so the Genesis is a 10-round gun that you can get a two round extender on it. And the thing is, the Dragon Breath, the reason why I know about it is because it was in the last Call of Duty. That's why I thought they put it in the movie, because it was the thing everyone used it in Call of Duty for shotguns is the Dragon Breath. Because you get instant kills with that thing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the director, he just comes up with the coolest ideas and stuff. And I just do whatever I can to add what I can. I just want to bring the best guns in the world. Like, as of right now, like, those two weapons are just devastating. Like, I don't know what to do for John Wick 5 if there is one.
Yeah.
Hope I have a little bit of time to come up with something next level, but it's kind of hard to beat this level right now.
So let's just skip around here. I keep thinking about the video of Joe Rogan, who is a huge gun enthusiast, firing the Pit Viper and saying that this was the best weapon he's ever shot. The thing had almost no recoil on it, and then he talked about how the front sight is not attached to the slide, so it doesn't move for the iron sights. This is the Pit Viper. The Sand Viper obviously has an optical sight on there. Can you talk about how does this work? Because I know when you say you build a gun, I think a lot of people don't understand. You're not in there with soldering irons doing it yourself. Are you sending schematics to someone else? Are you the gunsmith? Like, how does this whole thing work?
Well, first I'll go over what we're talking about with the sights and everything.
Yeah.
So on a typical gun like this is it is a custom 2011, but the front sight is on the slide.
Yeah.
Just like Glock. See, this is the John Wick 2 Glock. So when you shoot the gun, the sight cycles, and the front sight is bouncing around on the slide. That's like any normal regular gun. That's how they've always been, right? So when I was shooting competition, I wanted to go next level. I wanted to have the front sight static. Okay, they came out with what they called the sight tracker back in the day. Then the island barrel with staccato, and with the Pit Viper, what I wanted to have was the same thing. When the slide cycles, the front sight stays on the compensator. It doesn't move; it's staying static.
Yeah,
you get a couple benefits with that. You get the front sight not bouncing around as much because it's in the front, staying there. You also take some weight off the slide. The more weight you take off the slide to a certain point, the gun shoots softer. It's less mass bouncing around. These little details aren't seen to everybody, but if I'm shooting with like Todd Jarrett or Rob Latham or some Grandmaster Maniac, they're gonna want these details because you're running at a race. So second to none, you need every detail you can. But to just even anybody that buys these guns, when they hold them and they try the trigger on the gun, it's like glass. What is in this gun? I didn't make my own hammer and sear. I went to Extreme Engineering, who's done my hammer and sears throughout most of my entire competition career. Why Fix When Ain't Broken, won all these national titles and everything and world championships with an Extreme hammer and sear and disconnector kit. It is the best. And when you pull the trigger, it's just like, oh my God, it's like glass breaking, and they hold up. So they drop in at around 2.5 pounds. Our guys can get them down to like 2 pounds. My personal ones are like 1.5 pounds because I'm a maniac. And then just the smoothness of the gun. Also, guys now are kind of copying me, but up till now, most 2011s had a beaver tail that was a big old memory groove bump here, lots of jagged edges here. And when they go from a Glock to 2011, they don't like it. You're feeling all this bumps and safeties and stuff hurts their hand. Like, just go back to my Glock. Yeah, it's not as cool, but I'm comfortable with it. So on all my personal guns throughout my career, I would personally blend in everything, the tail, take all the bumps out, blend the safeties into the frame, underneath the safeties, radius all this in. And people don't realize when they hold it, they're like, and it's like sitting in a car that's built for your size. It's perfect. Not getting in some Ferrari, like, oh, these Italians, whatever. Where's my Honda? So all those kind of details and reliability. We did a video shooting our TR9, and I just extended the video thinking it wouldn't happen. I started running backward bullets. So you take a bullet loaded in the case upside down, so the back end is just a blunt
Yeah.
flat mess. It doesn't want to get up any kind of a feed ramp in human history. And we ran it in all of our 2011s and it fed it. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not even happening, because 2011s up to a certain point in my entire career is like, you got to load a special bullet. It's got to be a 1.2, 0.25 overall length. It's got to have a bullet from Montana Gold, hollow point. You got to have, special powder, and it might work for your match. And I'm like, oh my God, like, so that's how most 2011s have been. Got to load a certain longer round, certain special bullets. They got to be full metal jacket or whatever. And for years like that. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. If someone's going to pay this amount of money for a gun, it might as well feed everything. I don't want to buy a car that only takes one certain kind of crazy, weird gasoline and I can't get anywhere. So, and that happens with other big companies out there. There's another huge company out there I used to be with, and they run a 1 in 24 twist barrel. And for years, I'm like, guys, I'm trying to win championships. It's not enough twist. The bullets are being destabilized. They're not spinning fast enough, and they're tumbling. On Top Shot, they were tumbling through the targets like idiots because some dumb company sent copper bullets. The difference is a full metal jacket. I'm getting way into details here.
Do it.
Is a hard jacket that's the lead is punched into, and it's a thick, hard jacket, but the most accurate bullets out there from Hornady, Winchester, all the brands. Then if you want to save money, there's what they call copper wash, copper bullets, copper dip, like berry bullets or those kind of bullets. And they're fine. We shoot them on the range all day long. They're half the price. In the right kind of gun, like my Sand Viper, Pit Viper, they're crazy accurate. You're splitting hairs here. Yeah, the full metal jacket will be a little bit more accurate, but the crazy accurate, you put that in another brand gun with the 1 in 24 twist, it's literally a paintball gun. You can't even hit a human-sized target at 20 yards with the ammo. It just goes vroom, vroom, like a paintball.
Because you're saying because there isn't enough spin. So a lot of people, so some people who are not as familiar with guns, you're referring to the twist, the rifling in the barrel that causes the bullet to spin. Just like a football is more accurate when it's a tighter spiral, that kind of thing, because of the way it passes through the air. The other thing that I think maybe the audience wouldn't understand is that on a Glock, there's a heavy pounds of pressure that you have to pull that first bullet. Some Glocks don't have a safety, and so you pull the trigger. And you're saying yours, I think, I don't know, it's 9 pounds or 11 pounds or whatever it is, but you were saying in another video that extra pull actually causes a lack of accuracy for the first round, and that your guns don't do that.
That would be on like, say, a double action Beretta, big, like, Beretta 92F, whatever. This is not one, but how those guns work, and it's good for like law enforcement and duty, whatever. It's like a double action first shot is really heavy. And then once that happens, the trigger is reset to like a single action pull. So a lot of guys actually hate that first shot. They're not good. They're pulling it, and they flinch off target.
Yeah.
Or they shoot the hostage in the head. Then they start shooting good afterwards.
Yeah.
It's with a lot of practice. It's still hard. I mean, for some people, it's such a long, progressive revolver type of 8-pound, 10-pound trigger pull. Then it drops down to like a 5-pound, 3 or 4-pound trigger. On the Glock, and I have no help from Glock. Glock does nothing for me, but I still push Glocks. Why? Because my mindset in all this world is, if I think something's the best in its platform, I'm going to promote it, whether they hate me or not, or they're with me or not. It doesn't matter. Not they hate me or whatever. I'm saying, like, we don't really work together on anything, but I love the Glocks. I think they're great guns. The company could be a little more like innovative, but they still have great guns, and they're not like out of the box. They're a little, slippery and boring. But I mean, for a platform for me to do work to, it's still my favorite for a lot of reasons, because you get a higher back strap on it. The new barrel fits are more accurate in them. And there's still, it's just an easy gun. Everybody's still trying to copy it, still trying to beat it. But I got off subject a little bit as far as the rifling goes. So if you have a 1 in 16 twist in your barrel, like this gun here and most every other brand out there, it'll stabilize any bullet weight pretty good. It'll shoot fairly accurate. If you have a 1 in 24 twist, you're not twisting the bullet fast enough. So a 147 grain, which is a heavier bullet, is gonna tumble. It's gonna destabilize. So those guns by those other companies, that guns cost $9,000, are not going to be able to run anything but a 130 grain bullet or below with a full metal jacket only. You cannot shoot any copper anything. It is literally not a gun anymore. It's just firing stuff in a direction of a target with horrific accuracy. And also they did it because a long time ago they had a famous shooter shooting for them, and he was like, I want to make the twist go a little less. That way the gun torques 1/100th of a cunt hair less in my recoil, so I can win the nationals against Rob Latham. And it was some stupid suggestion by a retired shooter, which I actually retired him, but anyway. And they never changed it. This is 20 something years ago.
So you're saying something I didn't understand. So I guess from like Newtonian physics, the extra rifling actually creates more kickback?
Their theory, which is nonsense, even the most insane grandmaster is not going to really spot it, but it was just told to the company back in the day to change the twist to less twist. That he thinks because it's not twisting as fast, it's going to be less torque up to the right. Okay. In reality, you sacrifice every type of bullet out there but a few brands. It's like a car that now will only take the most premium gasoline from Chevron only, and you got to drive around the country that way. And it's ridiculous. So they did that with those guns, and they still do it to this day. And I'm not with the company anymore. And I've told them, like, guys, just stop. It take you 5 seconds to change the twist cutting in your barrels, and just do what's right and admit that it's stupid, that people are out there shooting guns that can only shoot one type of bullet going a higher velocity, and then they're going to eat crap with everything else. And it's just a frustrating thing, and the companies do that. So a 1 in 16 twist is pretty much what you want. It'll shoot virtually any type of bullet out there. You're not, because most people don't know. They don't know what bullet to get, what to do. They just buy some stuff with the guns.
They go to Walmart and they get what's in front of them. Yeah.
They can't sit around all day long, like just testing and studying, and they're going to try to win some stupid nationals. They're just shooting, and then they're missing, and they're, oh my God, I'm the worst. I'm terrible. And that's not right to do the customer, in my opinion.
Let's talk about this. I thought this was really interesting. 2 questions I have for you. First off, why was Joe Rogan, what is he experiencing that's so different from any other pistol that he shot? Why does this gun have what he considers to be less recoil? He said, wherever my hand goes, the gun would just go, and it just felt like there was almost no recoil on the weapon at all. What is the physics and the engineering that causes this weapon to not do that, to do what other guns do?
So his other 2011 that he has this one here. This is the John Wick 3. It's a regular 1911 type platform, but it's got a high capacity grip and other bells and whistles. But the reality is it's just a regular barrel. The bullet, gun cycles, flames come out the front, the gun recoils, it does what it does. It shoots softer because it's a little bit heavier gun. When he shot the Pit Viper, it's a similar gun, but there's one major different advantage is the compensator. So see this hole in the top?
Yeah.
So how that works is they've been around a while. This is one of the best ones out there, if not the best one, for a single port. So when the bullet goes out, it hits this wall, hits this baffle. All the blast, or in layman's term, the flames hit that wall and divert straight up. So you watch videos of Post Malone shooting at my place at night, or whoever, me shooting, you see a giant fireball coming out of the top and a fireball in the front. That blast and those gases are going straight up to counteract the recoil wanting to go up. So it's kicking off and pushing off.
Does that have any effect on velocity when you lose some of the gas going up like that?
Because the barrel's a little bit shorter, you're going to lose like 40 feet per second or so.
Okay.
Not really enough to make much of a difference. What it does allow you to do is run a hotter plus P load. And that little bit, even when the hotter load happens, the hotter it is, it even makes the gun almost shoot softer because even more gas is kicking out.
Wow.
So you can make a difference on the hotter ammo, and the gun doesn't move. So when people shoot this gun, they're like, what they're almost not used to it at first. You got to kind of get used to it. It's like when you first jump in some Ferrari or Tesla that's 2.5 seconds in 0 to 60, you kind of got to get used to that speed to kind of smooth into it. But once you do, it's insane. So we call it the Pit Viper because there's a pit here, and it's got these razor blade fangs here, so you could either jab somebody with it.
That's what I was going to ask you. You could jab somebody with the fangs. Like a bayonet.
Like some guys do wacky guns. Somebody heard what I was doing for the movie before the movie came out, tried to jump the gun and did some wacky video with, I think it was Demolition Ranch, and had some hacky looking 2011 with a giant blades welded on the front. So you can't really do anything with a gun like that. You barely move and you're going to cut your thigh open and bleed out real slow. So you don't see them. They only come out when you need them to. And if you take the slide off, like in the movie, it's literally a handle held double bladed knife. So
Wow.
I just got very lucky on the design. It wasn't really planned. I'm just like, when somebody puts you the task of coming up with something to beat this gun, which is hard to do. This gun's won all the nationals and all the fun stuff, and it's an amazing gun. I just wanted to, I did what I did, but this gun wasn't able to be released yet. So we released it incognito about a year before it came out and had to go to the nationals and win some titles. So not only is John Wick's gun like the cool movie gun, it's a 2-time national title holding gun before the movie even came out.
So the 2011 does not have a compensator, but the Sand Viper and the Pit Viper do?
Yeah, the Sand Viper and Pit Viper have compensators.
That's incredible.
So this optic, and then we gave it a spray tan, and then we put a hat on his head, and we launched it without a movie behind it. And it was like the hugest, most popular gun we've ever launched. And it was launched accidentally. Some guy put a video out before us, and he's like, "Have you guys seen this thing? The collector cut this in. It's called the Sand Viper. Oh my!" Like we shared it. It was so good. It was so organic. It's like, and the trigger. Oh my God, what is going on? It was a really cool video they did. It was for the collector's collection. He always gets everything for everybody. So yeah, and this gun is just insane how it shoots, how soft it is, and so they're like our 2 most popular. I mean, this one is still off the charts. So
Joe Rogan said that he preferred iron sights after using that Pit Viper. Do you prefer iron sights?
I do. I mean, I do shoot competition with an SRO on top for a carry optics division. I have to defend some stupid titles I've got. And it's okay. I still prefer to shoot both the match with 2 guns. I shoot like this one and this one like this. And I prefer open sights, but I don't like regular just junky iron sights. That's the difference. Like if you just pick up some regular gun with some white dot trash, some plastic rear, yeah, it's awful. It's the worst. So I would never recommend that. But way back when I was shooting and fiber optic sights were coming out on the guns, I didn't like them because what happened was they would build them with the fiber optic dot halfway down the blade.
You're talking about the glow in the dark tritium that they put on the inside of the sight.
Not tritium. This is a fiber optic.
Okay.
It's a rod of fiber optic, and the light hits it. And it's a glowing green or red dot.
Got it.
And I was the first guy, not that took brain surgery to figure it out, to put the dot at the very top of the blade, so it takes out the guesswork. When you're shooting, you can. I'm not lining this up well. I want to shoot myself, but yeah. Hey, what are you doing? Dangerous over there. But I wanted to have the dot at the very top of the blade, so a little bit of blade above it. That way, so when I got into it, everything I did in competition, I wanted to bring to my customers. Like, what am I doing to this shotgun to make a quad load better? What am I doing to all these guns to make them better? And these details all make a huge difference in your shooting. So I wanted the dot to be at the very top. So I got plenty of water. So that way you're not thinking like, well, am I shooting this big black blade above the dot, or am I shooting the dot? Now you're shooting way over stuff because you're lining up the green dot or red dot in the rear blade, or you're shooting low because you're shooting the blade on way above the dot. I'm like, what is wrong with these knuckle draggers that design these guns? Like, they don't shoot. And 90% of the major manufacturers out there, if not more than that, none of them are shooters. They hire some CEO from Campbell Soup who got fired, or some other, corporate clown, and they don't do anything. They just, oh, that looks cool, run that. And look, they're selling, everybody's selling stuff. It's all great. But what sets me apart is the history of shooting that I've done and making sure these guns are as most badass they possibly can be, letting my top shooters try them also, getting feedback, and just coming out with what I've used to win stuff with. And when people get to shoot it, like we were just at this big convention in Indianapolis, and people like pull the trigger on it. They just love it. It's just different.
I mean, it's just so ingenious, the idea of like, as you increase the grain on the bullet, more gas would come out the compensator, so it would just even out no matter what round you're firing. It's really, really ingenious when you think about it from that standpoint.
Yeah, if you in the velocity does a little, like, it kind of depends. Like, it's a trade-off. So if you're shooting limited in a competition and you want the gun to shoot softer, without a compensator. Probably the heavier bullets going slower because it has to make a certain power factor. And that's getting nerdy here. You can't just show up there with any poofy round that barely comes out of the bullet, out of the gun. There's a major power factor and a minor power factor. So for major 9mm, which I helped put that into John Wick 3, is I wanted it to be a major 9mm round. So what that is like 125 grain bullet, which is any 9mm, could be 125, 124, 115, but it's how fast it's going. That makes up the difference. Why is a 357 Magnum way more deadly than a 38 Special? Same exact bullet loaded on the same reloading machines. It's the speed. So if you drive your Ferrari into the front of your office at 40 miles an hour and hit your office, with a stupid analogy, or drive it into your office at 220 miles an hour, what's the difference?
Yeah,
it's a big difference.
The newtons.
The 9mm majors. Now most people aren't going to get that round or buy it or whatever, but they have the option in heavy duty built like this to shoot 9mm major. And I wanted Wick to have hollow points, not the load up scene with a bunch of stupid ball ammo, and then guys are getting shot. There's these giant, CG blood holes everywhere, flying everywhere like it's a nuclear round. So I wanted for a round to be hot enough that would make sense to when he's shooting a bad guy in the walls, shit's flying everywhere, that it was the hottest 9mm round out there, which is as good, if not better, stopping power than most 45 ACP rounds. But with that 9mm, you always get more capacity than 40 cal and 45. So I thought that would be cool for the character because Wick is more about capacity than stopping power. He's just dumping people out.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that's kind of like, I kind of got off subject a little bit there. But if you're going to shoot major open division, which is a race gun like this, with even a bigger comp for the open division, then they run a lighter bullet with a slower burning powder to hit these baffles, and it makes the comp work better because with a fast burning powder for a limited gun is the rule of thumb. Heavy bullet, 147, whatever, something in that ballpark, with a slow burning powder, like a few grains of international clays, and it shoots super soft because you don't have a comp doing anything. When you shoot major open division, guys run a lighter bullet with way more powder that's burning in the comp and pushing it down and shooting flatter because they want to see the dot not bounce as much. So those are like the quickie, nerdy explanation of competition and the kind of rounds they shoot.
Well, let's talk about something a little bit more practical and realistic, and it was the situation with BJ Baldwin. When he got into a gunfight at that In-N-Out, one of the things he told me in the interview was that he was upset. He was disappointed with the velocity of the first rounds that came out of his gun. And he did some mathematics where he said that the person he was shooting at, and you guys can go back and watch that episode where he goes into detail about the firefight he was in. He fired off 10 rounds. He shot the guy twice. And he said that in the time it took for the bullet to travel, I believe it was 75 feet, the assailant could move about 8 inches. And that's why, and he was disappointed with that. You did a video where you talked about when you loaded your rounds, they were not all the same rounds. That you'd have different bullet weights or grains in the beginning, and then as you got towards the end, you would have different weight bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I load my stuff. If somebody can make fun of it, I don't care what they do. I'm defending my own self.
Yeah.
So for the way I load my guns for self-defense, most of my guns are 40 caliber. This old most people now, because unless you put the time into control of 40 caliber with a plus P plus super hot round, you're smarter to have a little less recoil with a 9mm with really good hollow points that come out nowadays. But I load like lighter, faster bullets first. So maybe the first 6 or so are like say a 115 going 1350, 1400 feet per second. Actually, before that, I have these new ones that came out that are crazy. I think it's Ultimate Ammunition has a 60 grain bullet going 2000 feet per second. It's nuts, but that's only like the first 3 or 4. So it's very low penetration and a lot of hydrostatic shock, a lot of tissue damage type stuff. I just don't want it going through, if you shoot like a 147 grain hollow point, it's going to go right through.
Yeah.
Just every time we have out the rubber dummies, these $2,000 rubber dummies that are incredible, bone, hearts, all the stuff in them.
Yeah.
And me and Josh Burnett go out there and we shoot them with 44 magnums or 9mm, and I've done them a bunch of times.
The transparent ones, the ones you're talking about.
Yeah, you can see
You guys should definitely check out his YouTube channel and look at those videos. They'll make you feel a little uncomfortable. Like that I actually felt sorry for the dummy at the end. That was crazy how much when you showed the penetration power, and almost none of those handgun bullets were making it all the way through the cardboard in the back.
Yeah, but the 147s go right through. So I want to shoot, and then it goes right through, no matter what I'm doing, and it goes through a wall, and it hits somebody or something. You know, I want it to stay in there, but I do have the heavier rounds towards the end of the magazine, in case for some reason this guy's layered up whack jaw, whatever, and I just start shooting faster. I mean, I'll empty the mag in the second half anyway, but not that I'm going to do that. But
so you're saying in the beginning of the magazine it is faster traveling, lighter rounds, and at the end of the magazine is heavier, slower rounds.
Heavier. They're still plus P.
Okay.
Some of the 40s I have, they don't make it anymore. It was called like Virginia Arms or something. It's some insane 155 grain bullet at like 14. It's insane. It's a 10 millimeter on steroids in a 40 cal. So like that thing's gonna blow the living crap out of anything. But I don't want to get to that round until I have to. But I mean, if these other ones, these 60 grain 40 caliber bullet going 1,800 feet per second doesn't do the job, I don't know what will. But as I go, then it gets down to like a Corbon, plus P 135. Those are going like 1325. They're smoking. I mean, you don't want to get hit with any of this stuff, But basically, yeah, it is getting to like more penetration rounds. They're getting heavier. They are going slower because they are heavier, but they're all plus P plus. I like that extra velocity and extra power. I don't shoot like, I'm not carrying a single stack 45 with 230 green hydro shock. I mean, that was cool 20 years ago when I'm an operator. But the reality of all this is the guy that keeps his head together, that aims or does it right, doesn't just panic fire and just dump a mag in the general direction. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, you're in a situation someone's going to kill you. You're gonna rely on your muscle memory and how you shoot to take over.
Yeah.
So, but I think the rounds that BJ used, they were just too slow and too weak. And I mean, look, the guy went down. Whatever. I don't know if he had schematics there or some videos watching and reviewing it over and over again. I don't know what going on. He survived, and that's what's important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy story. If you guys want to go back and watch that was really got me. I had never thought about bullet velocity making that much of a difference from a pistol, even though I know it's a much slower than it is from a rifle. Can you give the audience just some understanding? A Glock's regular muzzle velocity versus like some of these plus P rounds versus like say an AK-47. What are the different muzzle velocities, just so people can understand the difference?
Yeah, say a Glock with just your typical, I don't know, 115 grain 9 millimeters going about 1,150 feet per second in that ballpark, maybe 1,200. They do load a lot of this ball ammo pretty hot. It's pretty stout. But because it's a ball round, it's not what I would ever recommend for self-defense. Some guys do. I don't know what they're thinking, but I would never recommend a full metal jacket for home defense. It's not going to produce half the stopping power of a really good hollow point design, and it's going to go right through. And then you're jeopardizing going through walls, and who knows where it will go. I don't believe in that. It's my opinion, whatever. But like a plus P round, it could be a lot of velocities. It could be a 115 at like 1375 for you're looking at like a 200 feet per second increase when you get to plus P pluses. So that 200 feet, it makes a big difference. So
versus like rifle rounds.
Rifle rounds, like, why is an AR-15 round more powerful than a 22 long rifle? The bullet is the same diameter. One's a little bit heavier because one's going 1,100 feet per second. One's going nearly 3,000 feet per second.
Yeah.
So that velocity is the difference. It's a big difference. So you can't. The 22 is never going to touch a 223/556. AK round's a good round. I like the 223/556 better. I think it's just a better gun across the board than an AK on virtually every level. But people love AKs. They're cool. They're fun guns. There's nothing wrong with it. So its velocity. 308 is a 147 grain bullet, about 2750. That's the most standard like sniper rifle round with the military and everybody. But they've got much different rounds now that are faster, bullets, the 330 Lapua and other stuff for like the super elite long range stuff is better. But for just your regular, Remington bolt action or AR-10 type, the 308. And there's different types of 308. There's lighter bullets going faster. There's so many options. So many companies making such good ammunition nowadays. Winchester has the best line out there. So many other brands, incredible stuff. It's it's really about you could get all the cool tech and all the greatest bullets, but if you don't know how to shoot well and accurate and understand your gun, or realize like when you're shooting and something happens to it and it's out of battery, you're not paying attention, don't know how to clear it or clear a double feed or a jam, it doesn't matter what cool bullets you have or whatever you're doing, you got to know your stuff, and going to the right trainers, look at what they're doing, and you can judge for yourself who's good, who's not. There's a lot of guys out there making a living at it that are really good at it. There's a lot of good trainers out there.
One thing you mentioned in a previous interview that I'd never considered was you had a fire at your place and you lost some ammo that has never been it's not manufactured again, and I'd never even considered something like that happening. I don't think people understand how many different types of ammo there are. Can you go into that? First of all, what happened to cause the fire, and then what were some of the things that were like irreplaceable from that?
Well, it was like 2019 Halloween day, I think. The electric company, and I'm an idiot because I didn't follow through with a class action lawsuit. Found out last week that it's too late, dummy that I am. But woke up to this 60-mile-an-hour winds at 6 in the morning, and Nicolina, my ex-wife, my great friend, is like, "Get up, wake up!" She lives on the range property there. We have a bunch of funny kitties there. It's the most panicking insanity of all time. So there's actually videos of it. I had some people videoing as this going on. I was videoing part of it because I was like, I'm just going to die. And this fire is coming. It's going to burn the house down. Fire department rolls up, and we have a 20-foot container behind the house and by the original TTI shop, and another 40-foot right next to the range where I do all my stupid videos. That's all full of ammo. It's ammo from my whole life. Like there's this Triton special hollow points I collected from a friend of mine that was incredible. It's a 45. You shoot it, it's pre-diced, turns into 4 bullets. It's crazy velocities. They don't make it anymore. And 1,000 tons of rounds of Black Hills and Federal and Winchester and every brand, every kind of special 44 Magnums from the 70s and all this, the Black Gun. You got to see the Black Gun and all this stuff. And so the fire is coming. I'm hosing this stupid trailer down.
This is a forest fire that's spreading to your place.
It's not really a forest. It's all weeds.
Oh, just weeds. And you're in Calabasas, is that correct?
No, I'm in Simi Valley.
Simi Valley. Okay, sorry.
So wind is blowing at me. The property next door is 138 acres. It's nothing but a gigantic field of weeds. It's turning into this giant fireball, blowing this fire all over me. It's insane. I'm wetting the house, and I get to the back. And the trailer where the ammo is in a Connex metal box is on fire, which I'm like, how the hell is a shitty wooden house dump that is still there and the county won't let me put a new one in? It's a whole other miserable story. Is not burning yet, but the Connex box is burning because the birds have put nests of little like leaves up in the top. So the fire is starting in the back. So the fire department is right there at the exit with a giant fire hose. And they see that it says Fiocchi ammunition and stuff. They go, we can't help you. And they turn the hose off. Like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Just 2 seconds and put it out and save all my shit. There's mags, there's HK91 30 rounders. They don't make anymore. They're worth like $500 a mag, everything in there. And it's starting to light. They won't do it. So I grabbed some fire extinguishers. Now it's starting to burn. The bullets are flying out and hitting the wall of the house. And now the house is burning underneath my bedroom of this lifted turd trailer. And it's burning underneath it. Now it's burning. It's going to burn the bedroom. It's going to kill my cat, the Tinker Boy, and the powder poof. And it's going to burn everything I've ever owned, all my family pictures. It's burning underneath, and they're just standing there because their rules are they can't do anything to save anything with ammo or whatever they told me. So I'm doing drive-bys with the fire extinguisher with this goofy old coat I found. It's super thick, thank God. The bullets are flying out. Now they're not powerful enough to kill you, but one did actually penetrate the wall. I don't know what the hell that one was, but they're putting dents in the wall, and I'm getting hit. And I'm putting it out, doing drive-bys to the fire extinguisher. So both of them were empty. And literally the house partly burned, but I stopped it. Total miracle of God. So then I run down I'm like, oh, it's over. Here's the thing about fires. I've been through at least 7 major fires. Okay. It's never over. Think of Michael Myers. He's going to come back out of the water with Jason and slash your ass. It's never over. You can never have enough fire extinguishers, ever. I mean, it's just like being in a shootout with a 5-shot 38. When you got 2 fire extinguishers, you're done. So then I walk down to the range like 60 yards away, and a 40-foot down there, and the fire department's down there, is burning also. I'm like, why are metal Connex boxes burning? This is insane. Insane. So I think I'm going to be a superhero again and save the day. I got one last fire extinguisher. I run down the 40-foot Connex, and I almost pass out from smoke inhalation. I underestimated that crap. Come running out, and the fire department's trying to put it out. They can't, and so they need a hole. So I grab a Benelli out of the safe, and I grab slugs and I blow holes in the wall in the back because the fire's in the back and they can't get into it. So I blow 3 holes, 3 holes, 3 holes, and then they take a crowbar and rip it open and stick the fire hose there, start spraying. And I've got tons of ammo, all my whole life, all my 3-gun ammo, all the most bitchin' 50 grain VMAX, 60 grain V. My whole stash from my whole career is in there. It's blowing to pieces, burning up, blowing bullets out. Where you see us shoot the videos, there's an awning there. The bullets are ripping through the awning, blow the TV apart, blowing out the door. They're safe because it's blowing down the channel of the metal wall. It can't get out. It seems like they finally put it out. They go to leave. It's not out. It starts again. I call in. They come again. They spray Phos-Chek all over it. Tony McBride came out. Megan's dad came out to help me. My best friend, Derek DeGregory. My friends who get through the police line are helping me. It's like 3 times the fire department came to put out. I'm good. You guys are good. Go save other places. And 5 minutes later, it starts again. There was some kind of like plastic crap. It's all burning again, blowing up again. And then the trees are right between the Connex and my little building, which is wood, and it's burning. So I get the Benelli and I blow the tree limbs off. And it was just insane chaos, craziness. They come back again. Then the fire department turns off the water on me. So my personal hose just goes, runs out of water. And I'm like, oh, it must be like back in 2004 when the fire burned my PVC pipes up front. And so then Eric Bixler, who's this raging LA cop friend of mine, who just is an unbelievable dude, comes down. He gets through the big old block at the road. He's like, what's wrong with your hose? I'm like, it's dead. It burned through. He's, no, it didn't. The fire department turned off your water. Oh, great. Thanks, fire department. They turned off my water. So he turns it back on. We have a little bit of water again. So it's a day and a half of trying to keep these fires out, running around, putting out everything. And that was just one of like a million fires I've been through. It's insane. So that story went on a tangent, but the ammo all burned to pieces. There's a billion Glock mag bodies in there, and it's a wreckage. So that was probably like over $1 million in ammo, because that ammo is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And right happened is when the world went crazy with the pandemic, and ammo prices went from $160 1,000 rounds of 9mm to $1,000 1,000, and that ammo was already at like elite price. It was the most badass hollow points in the world. That all quadrupled to the point where I can never even replace any of it. So
That's crazy. Yeah, when I heard that story, I saw the videos. I was like, "Wow, man, that's crazy that you went through all that." And I can't imagine trying to put out a fire while bullets are popping like popcorn all over the place. With varying degrees of velocity and different things. And yeah, man, that must have been incredibly scary.
and I couldn't let the house burn. I couldn't let my 2 cats die. We got the other cats out, but we couldn't get those 2 out. They was buried in there, hiding, scared, and
That's
they're
terrible.
so
Yeah, I can tell you if my apartment was on fire, I would run in and get my cats. I did the exact same thing. No doubt about it whatsoever. Let me ask you this. So I've never heard anybody describe this or ask you this before. Where did you originally grow up? And then what was the point maybe in junior high, high school where you found this love for shooting competition, stuff like that?
First house I think was Glendale. It was Ben Crosby's old house. Crazy story. My family had some decent money back then. And then we moved to Canoga Park. We had this amazing 2.5 acres across the street from a place called Shadow Ranch Park, which is still there. And they actually filmed a movie there a long time ago called The Children's Hour with Audrey Hepburn. And it's such a cool movie. It's a very controversial movie. It was the first time about a lesbian relationship. It was the first time about somebody getting canceled. It's so crazy to watch this movie, The Children's Hour. And that was my childhood back then. My mom and dad gave us a wonderful life. My dad started the first ever PS storage kind of place called Garage Emporium in North Hollywood. And so we had this island house. We had a back pasture with 7 horses. every kind of animal, chickens, peacocks, guinea hens, all kind of lunacy. We had a tree house. We had everything. But my family raised us to not be spoiled, not to be jerks. Every kid from the neighborhood came, played there. We had fun. My mom put me in horse shows. So I won all these horse show championships. It was super fun. The horse did all the work, Lightning. I just sat on there and got the trophy. And it was a wonderful time. Went to Chatsworth, it was just the most wonderful time. But it all kind of came to an end when literally right when 1979 came, we had everything. My dad had a Dino Spider Ferrari, took me to school in that car, and like a 72 Corvette Stingray. We were very humble and very kind to everyone. And then we lost everything. The garage place, we even had the original Grizzly Adams storing his stuff there. So dumb, Dan Haggerty. And then we lost everything. Had to go do door-to-door sales. And we got robbed. So we had all kind of guns. My mom and dad, my brother was the gun person, and he got me into shooting. My first gun was a Colt Python. We loved Dirty Harry. So everybody's out going to the movies to see Star Wars, which I did see as a kid because I'm really old. I saw it as a child in the 70s. It was so fun. But I loved Dirty Harry, Magnum Force, First Blood. That was kind of like my movies. I mean, I watch everything, but I was more in that vein. And we had 33 guns. And I never told the story before. I still have the list. Maybe I should have a cop see if any turn up. But we were such morons that we didn't have a safe. We put all the guns on the wall, engraved Bisleys, Colt Bisleys, hand inlaid grips on the cover of Guns and Ammo magazine. We had everything. And these kids, they used to come and play, called the King Kids. There was a huge family: Tommy King, Billy King, Mikey King, Jimmy King, and all these kids. The one kid, Billy King, ended up getting into drugs and stuff, and they robbed us one day of all the guns. And they were stalking our property. They had shot rounds at the house. It went from the most wonderful times to the darkest days of us staying up all night guarding the place. My mom was very ballsy. She figured out who did it and convinced them to return everything. And while that was happening across the street at Shadow Ranch Park, my brother was there were the 45 Colt Series 70 1911. And when they decided to do the deal and give the guns back, this guy Potter and this stupid Billy King scumbag, that they wouldn't put him in prison. We negotiated to get the guns back. They knew they did it. The negotiation went well. My brother went to put the gun back, and he didn't have the safety on. He shot a 230 grain full metal jacket right through his ass, through the top of his ass, out the bottom, into the dirt. We still have the bullet. Went to the hospital. They had to take this glass thing and run it through it was top of his ass cheek, out the bottom, and cut out all this black burnt meat. It was just rough times, crazy stuff. Got all the guns back. Total morons. Less than a year later, we didn't lock them up properly. The same people robbed even more. So they got almost all the guns this time. We lost everything. Family split up. We became door-to-door salesmen. We moved to Moore Park in 1980. And, just basically just barely survived for many years until I started my company. We didn't have any money at all. Drove the most horrific car. You see, it's like the car in Terminator 2 that keeps getting hit over and over again by that big brown junky looking car.
Yeah.
That was our. So then I worked security at different places where was it? It was Prudential and stuff like that. And just barely made it. Even when Top Shot was coming out. They wanted to put me on the show, and we had lost our paintball and our airsoft facility, and the county shut it down. And so I ended up, all I could do to survive was sell my personal guns to pay the mortgage and stuff like that. So, it was, that was kind of my childhood. It was amazing, then destroyed, but I'm glad. I lost everything. We lost my mom. I used to see her crying at night about losing everything. And I told her it's going to be okay. But I'm glad I wasn't just some spoiled guy my whole life. What would that be? I see some of these people, they're the sons of major movie stars, whatever. It doesn't build any kind of character. And we lost everything for 20 years or more. And to get it back and build it back, my mom was proud of me. She saw what I did in my shooting and how I was starting a company and everything before she died. And God has for everything.
Yeah.
was the plan. I can't argue the script. I'm just some spoon-fed guy. Oh, I got my family money. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I don't want that. God has a plan, and it feels good to build your career and do your thing, not just have it handed to you.
One of the things I've noticed is whenever I meet someone who has always had money versus someone who didn't have money and then they do. Like I have a friend of mine. He's a famous TV producer. The guy's worth $400 million. Lives in Miami. I go stay at his place. You can tell he used to be broke. Like there's a vibe around guys who used to be broke and then aren't, and there's this appreciation. And I remember you saying about Keanu Reeves, about how gracious he was and how humble he was. And it's probably the reason why you and he worked so well together. Is probably because of that whole situation, because you've experienced this and have so much gratitude. I cannot imagine how gratifying it must be to go to work every day doing something that you love this much.
Yeah, and like everybody says, how kind and wonderful it is. All of it's true. None of it's fake. He's such a wonderful person across the board on every level. He's done so much to change my life and everyone around him. All of his stunt people, he always names them. He's doing an interview on some big talk show, and he says Jackson Spidell does the stunt with the car hit because he can't risk wrecking their star for a car hit.
Yeah.
And he's every movie he throws my name out there. He's just so kind. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do anything. Yeah. And he's just been a wonderful friend since day one. And it's surreal because I've watched him my entire career. I've seen everything he's ever done. And his stupid backstory is I used to do extra work back in the early 90s, and I was doing extra work on Speed, the first one. So I'm driving some 93 Honda Accord piece of junk behind the bus back there, and just watching the scene where Toon Man crashes into all the water and it flies up in the air over and over, crash the car again and again. And then we go to lunch, and he's there. He's got his white T-shirt on. He's all tall, short hair, and he's over there gonna have lunch with Sandra Bullock. And I didn't really talk to him or anything. Just say, "There's Keanu. This is cool." And I loved the movie when it came out. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we're training and we're doing a video and we're filming, and it's on YouTube. It's funny where I bring it up. It's like I'm like, I was in the car behind. He's like, he goes, no way, really? Like, he's just so funny and so sweet and kind, and then he I've never really traveled to Europe before, and he's like, Taran, you're going to France, you're going to stay in a great hotel. I'm putting you up at the Crillon, the Concorde. And I'm like, what's that? And I had no idea. It's the most expensive and amazing hotel in all of France. Until I saw it, I didn't realize. And it's in my whole shooting career, I didn't give a crap. I stayed in the Vagabond Inn, Motel 6. I'm here to win a match and get the fuck out of town, right? So we go to this place and puts me and Tatiana up, for a month, whatever. And it was spectacular for him to do that for us. Is so kind of him, and he's just so gracious. And at the premiere, we had a little talk about everything. He's just such a wonderful person. And he deserves everything that comes to him. He's had his ups and downs. Everybody can see it on YouTube. He deserves everything that comes to him. And he's just a down-to-earth, wonderful person,
Is that when you proposed to Tatiana in front of the Eiffel Tower? Was that during that trip?
Yeah. So I kind of planned it out. And
did Keanu know that you were going to do that?
No, he didn't know. So, he knew, how much we cared about each other. And,
yeah.
He might have. I think he's not stupid. I think he knew. I didn't flat out tell him, but he kind of knew. So it's kind of his fault, So.
Yeah, for anybody who you guys can go onto his YouTube channel and you can watch it. It is the scene where they the first point where it's Bill Skarsgård. Is that the guy who plays the antagonist? Yeah.
Great bat.
Yeah, him and this is Alexander Skarsgård's younger brother and his father. I forgot his father's name, but they're all three a really, really famous acting family from Sweden, I believe. But he plays a German in this movie. And then on the other side is where John Wick is sitting. That scene right there is where you proposed, because you can see the Eiffel Tower in the back.
Yeah. I planned it there. So I watched all those scenes. They filmed them. And while I was there a month there before she got there, because it's like always good things all happen at once. She couldn't get off the set of Bosch Legacy. She's playing the main assassin against Titus Welliver. She's telling me all of her fun movie stories and all the awesome stuff going on. And I'm just dying for her to get there. They keep extending her time there, adding her character another day, another week. Oh my God, you got to get up here. So when they're filming that scene, I'm like, this can't be a better spot. And the night we picked was the first time she's seen her sister in years, who came to France. And that was the only night that I was there. You're there by yourself. You go to the Eiffel Tower and film some selfies. I think you're all cool. And the Eiffel Tower, when it lights up, at the turn of the clock every hour, it was always like a yellow lights going nutty. And that one night that I do the proposal, it was this crazy kind of purpley blue color, and it just was like very unique and special. So I think God kind of planned it to be that perfect timing for that. So it was really cool.
Yeah, really, really awesome video. And I'd known Tatiana for probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years because I knew her brother Sergio, and that's how she connected me. You guys when we bumped into you at that wedding that one time. It was pretty amazing. Let me ask you this: so the transition from you said you mentioned you're having a rough time, you're doing door to door salesman, and then you start your company. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs watching this, you have a successful brand and a very successful company where you have merchandise and you're creating content online, and I think that's something that's relatable to a lot of people today who are trying to build a brand. What is the transition point? Now, obviously, being involved with the John Wick movies had a lot to do with it. But initially, what were you doing? Were you just selling firearms? Did you just have a training a place? Was it always in Simi Valley? What was the original business, and then what did it transform into?
Well, it's none of it was really planned. I mean, I always had the dream of having a gun company and doing my thing, and I always dreamed about working in Hollywood and things like that, but never had any game plan for it. But what I did is like in 94 is when I put myself in I loved competition. I followed it for many years before I got into it, but wanted to get but finally I jumped into it in 94 and immediately was in the top 7. And I'm like, holy crap, if I got some big fat Glock 21 chunkorama with stupid, 13 round 45 mags against 2011s with 18 round 40 cal, and I'm 7th out of 118 guys with this turd gun, a big chunkorama, not turd, it's a great gun, but I could start winning. So I immediately start winning everything. And you don't make a lot of money in the competition world unless you like parlay that into either training or whatever. It's hard to explain, but like it's great to win, get these titles, but you're not making like Lewis Hamilton money or anything like that, right? And so what happened is I'm doing my guns kind of out of a garage and like with this gunsmith friend of mine, Fred Lindley, and another one, and Rob Milhorn, and we're kind of doing our thing to make me win. Like this is what I need to win. Not doing nothing for anybody else. I'll do some stuff here and there, but eventually, like I met some people that wanted to start a gun company off of my stuff. So I met this one guy, and he's like, with Glockworks, and he's like, "Hey, bitch, I want you to do that trigger on my Glock, and I'll do a computer for you." Like he's a computer nerd at like 24, and I'm this raging shooter maniac, and so I don't even have a computer for the house, like to just do anything with. So we do a trade, and we do this trigger, and then we start like Glockworks and stuff. And after a couple of years, it wasn't getting anything out of it, whatever. So then another group come along and we start Salient, and then 2 years of that. And I'm like, you know what? I need to do my own thing because these things aren't turning out the way I want. These guns aren't what I want. I don't want to do guns that I can't call to be what I want. I know how to shoot and know what I'm doing. I don't want to argue with somebody about stuff, and I want to actually make money. I don't want to just do all this for free. So ended up when things didn't go well with these companies and how it was working out, I just said, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. So I started Taran Tactical Innovations and doing everything kind of the opposite, like George Costanza, and it'll work out. And I did the opposite and it worked out. So people liked what I was doing, and I was doing my 3-gun guns for everybody. Now I had to slow down, and it's hard to do that and try to win everything in the world and do all this stuff. So I had to realize like I can't just go to matches forever. And I recently ran into one of my friends at this big trade show in Indiana, and I was kind of like, that's exactly what I didn't want to become. Somebody like pushing 60 or whatever, still trying to win with no like other way to make money. And I didn't want that. So I'm still able to win matches here and there, but the excitement of building these custom guns, how people like it. And then the Hollywood thing opened up. So that was, a huge, huge booster for me to be part of that and to not just see just the same old junky beat trap Glock or SIG or whatever on the screen over and over again. People like, if you do a Fast and Furious movie, do you want to see like an 84 CRX or an 86 Fiero? Like you want to see the most bitchin' cars that somebody could come up with. It's like Dennis McCarthy does those cars for the movie. So I want to do that. I want the best guns for these characters. Every movie I do, I come up with the best gun I can. And the audience wants to see that. Like, look at Dirty Harry. What made Dirty Harry special? The 44 Magnum,
Yeah.
some 6-inch 38 special piece of turd. It was the freaking beautiful 6.5-inch 44 Magnum. So that was the movie that got me started in all of this. In the back of my mind, when I saw Magnum Force, when Dirty Harry, goes to do that competition with Davis Soul, aka Davis, he's like, is a bullseye combat? It's combat. And on the Hogan's Alley, and they're shooting it out with each other. Like, this is awesome, and that's what started the competition world. And I loved it. I still love competition. I think it's the best place to go if you want to be a great shooter. It's like being in the UFC.
Yeah.
You can go to your little dojo and go to some karate master guy, and he can tell you about some belt he got in some little place in the middle of nowhere in Japan or whatever. But you're never gonna like hide in the UFC. The best is in the UFC, and that's what USPSA, IPSC, three gun, multi gun is the best in the world with weapons. That's why the military goes to Jerry Barnhart, goes to Rob Latham, goes to me, Vogel, all these people, because they have tactics and they do their thing. They already know how to go in a formation, do their thing, but they gotta be really good at handling guns, doing reload, shooting, and also the technology of the guns changed for the military. So the military, why did they get into having a side-mounted dot on a rifle? So you see this little RMR here. That came from them, watching us at Three Gun, learning from us. I've done a lot of military classes, and they'd come out with some goofy setup with an ACOG with an RMR on top, and we couldn't even zero it. Like, this cannot. This is so high.
Yeah, you can't zero it on the
RMR.
front sight.
So
Yeah.
they're shooting. So what good is this dot this high on this ACOG when you're going to shoot a close range shot and hit the hostage in the nuts? Because you can't go any lower.
Yeah.
It's they tried the acupoint, loved it, or whatever. So I'd give or to put it down here. Now you can zero it. You can make a close range shot. Go back to your long range. Do whatever you want. And so they get those ideas from they're not stupid, from the best shooters in the world, and that's what they do. If you sit and watch like Robert Vogel shoot, or Dave Savigny, or Rob Latham, or Eric Raffel, like, it's beyond next level, like what they can do. The only thing I have now on them is my hip shooting lunacy. Nobody does it. So like, I like Westerns, I like cowboy, I like fanning, I like from the hip and all that fun stuff. And I think it's good to be able to instinctively be able to hit stuff and not always rely on a dot or a perfect fiber optic sight. But so getting on a tangent, I kind of get totally off the subject, but that's.
I love it, man. This is I haven't heard you do an interview like this. So that's why I wanted. Were you smithing these guns yourself in the beginning?
Yeah, I was doing all the Benellis, doing everything. I was like the master gunsmith. I was stippling way back in '95. I was one of the first ones to ever stipple a grip on a Glock, and I was doing that to make $50 a grip back in the day. Just to help pay the mortgage and stuff like that, and then sort of adding good people and growing from, my first had one employee, then two, now I'm at like 51 or so, and that's not counting other facilities that manufacture parts and accessories for us all over the place. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to I could basically flat out say, if you want the best guns in the world, these are the best guns in the world.
So
Some of them are a little, but they're the best.
So if someone was to go to your website, they can just order from a menu of different firearms, and
I didn't want to get too crazy, even though I've gotten a little bit crazy. I wanted to be like, almost like, come and have a simple menu, like almost in and out,
Yeah.
And it was kind of that at first, but we've grown. But it's easy to figure out what you want, like the best, Benellis out there, custom work to Benellis. The Genesis, the 2011s. There's a lot of 2011s out there. Staccato makes great guns; they're fantastic. Infinity has great guns, but it's hard to get a gun like this. It's just got everything in it ready to go. And we just brought back the 2011 with Staccato that was for John Wick 3. So we just launched that last week, which is a cool gun. It's a limited run, comes in a special box, but. Yeah, we just try to make, and also the triggers. Like, our Glock triggers are better than 99% of the 2011 triggers. We work with Timney, and back in the good old days, you'd have to take a a Glock trigger and change the connector and do some stuff and polish it. And it wouldn't be something I would carry because it's so light. It won't hit the primers very hard because you got a lighter striker spring. You put a lighter striker spring because the lighter it is, the lighter it is to pull it back and activate it. With this new Timney setup, it's a whole different geometry than your regular Glock trigger. With that, you can run the full power striker spring and have a trigger twice as light as we used to have. So when I had like my custom Glocks to win the GSSF Glock matches for all these years since '95 and winning those things, I had a couple done like so amazing, so incredible. These triggers are so good, I actually replaced those like super amazing triggers with these that are even next level. So the Timney trigger, like you can't just drop it in. It'll drop in okay, but if you drop in and have us do our magic to it, it's unreal. Like it's the only thing that beats it is the triggers on these guns or triggers from like Infinity or like a custom Staccato. Like it's just unbelievable how clean they are.
Is it like a Tesla or Ferrari? Is there a wait list if I want to get a Pit Viper or a Sand Viper?
I mean, we're just overrun. But we're making them. There's also like there's two schools of thought. Like, okay, I want a custom 2011. So up until recently, you could get one from Infinity. That's going to be like a year wait or more, and it's going to be a cool gun. But they're like super heavy, and they've got that stupid twist I talk about in them. And Staccatos, they've also got a wait list, but they're a fantastic gun. Or you go to like a custom gun builder. There's guys in Arizona. There's guys all over the place. They'll custom build you a gun, but you're looking at years to get the gun. Okay, and they don't usually look that good. They'll run good. They'll be a fit extractor and ejector. Well, all these come with that. Someone's like, I'm not going to pay that much money for a Sand Viper. I can get a Gonzo 2011 from Gonzo Ordnance. Okay, this gun's got an Aftec extractor. What is an Aftec extractor? Okay, every 1911 out there that you buy is going to have a 1911 extractor made. That's a design from 1911. It's kind of a bit of a time ago. It's just a bent piece of metal, and you want to tension it where it's reliable. Well, if we'll lose this tension, it's leaving cases in the chamber, you're done, right? So because I've lost matches over so many things that I didn't have in my gun in the past trying to save money, I put Aftec extractors in all my competition guns. The guns wouldn't jam. Same thing with the ejector. I want it to be a thick, strong ejector to kick the rounds out, not a little long, skinny one that'll snap off at the last stage of the Nationals and cost me another title. So these kind of details matter. The way the beaver tail is blended, like we talked about before, the rifling of the barrel, the quality of the barrel, the way the barrel is fitted. It can't be moving around. It can't bounce around. The triggers, the hammers, the sears, all the details, every detail in this gun is built so I could take it right now to a match without messing with it. In the good old days, or back in my day, you'd buy a gun from one of these companies, say STI way back in the day before they revamped themselves 10 times over. Okay, now I got to replace the barrel, the hammer, the sear, the trigger. Now I bought this gun for X amount of money. I got to drop thousands more to get it up to par. Then I got to have all this blended. I got to refinish it. I got to repaint my car. Versus this gun is ready to go right now, done. It's not going to take. It's going to take months to get. What's time worth? So you're waiting for a gun like this for how many years from Richard Heine? You're waiting 5 years for a gun. What? I'm retired by then. I'm done. 5 years? What am I going to do in 5 years? So time matters too. So these are the details about what I do. Is that you're getting, I think, the only guns out there, except for the ones we're doing with Staccato now, that are ready to go for competition.
Amazing. So one thing I want to point out, because I have a coaching program and we talk about entrepreneurship. So Taran he is a competitor, and he's a trainer, and he's selling guns, and he's an expert on weapons and ammo, and he's a gunsmith. So this is what I want to, because a lot of people get into this entrepreneurship field and they don't want to do the work to get to the top of their field, right? You didn't just accidentally stumble into a relationship with Keanu Reeves and then become famous. It was a situation where I just want to point out you as a testimonial, being a world-class competition shooter, and then also building the guns yourself. It's almost like I watched First Man with my girlfriend recently, and we were discussing how Neil Armstrong was a Navy pilot and a test pilot, and he also had, I believe, a PhD in engineering. So he actually went back and explained to them when they were going up in Apollo 11, he had input on all the engineering designs in the spacecraft because he had expertise in the engineering of the craft and also practically flying it. And I think you're such a great example of that, of putting into work all the different parts. It's not just do as I say and not as I do. You also do as I do. And I think that's a really great example of like a great way to attack being an entrepreneur, being the subject matter expert, and also executing your craft at the same time while teaching it.
Yeah, like an example of that. Thank you for bringing that up. So, like, there's a million AR-15s out there, right? A million platforms, a million of them. So when I got into three gun, because I shot pistol forever and won a bunch of stuff, I jumped into three gun. I didn't like how your AR shot. I realized, okay, this gun is gassed too much. What that means is there's a rod coming up through the gas block here, through the gun that cycles the bolt. Most every AR out there, especially back in those days, was cycling so violently that the gun kicked a lot. So I wanted to put an adjustable gas block or get a barrel with a smaller hole. Then the other problem is how it's sprung. If it's oversprung in the back, when the bolt closes, when it slams closed, it's slamming so hard that the bolt is moving. So I've got to shoot like Three Gun Nation and shoot against the best in the world, like Miklik, whatever. I want the softest shooting gun I could shoot. It isn't just going to be ammo related. It's going to be everything related. So I was like the first guy when I went to the nationals, when I came on the scene, and I was shooting limited division. So I can't have an optic. I have to have a dorky Benelli with 8 rounds and just some stupid Glock. And I'm beating the super squad with my AR because it was light. I had a light barrel. I had my guy made my comp in the garage for me to my specifications, the way the ports worked, and was winning these stages. And these top shooters come up to me like looking at my gun. So like the next thing I know, they go from these big 20-inch ARs with giant optics, big giant varmint heavy barrels, and big gnarly comps that blow gas back in your face. Not that they weren't great shooters, they're total legends, right? Like Mike Voigt and Miklik and everybody. But I can flat out say I was pioneering the light, fast rifle. Like, you don't need that extra 70 feet per second. No one's going to give a shit. The target doesn't care at 400 yards about another 50 feet per second. I want to be able to maneuver this gun because it's not just the long range. To win three gun, you got to be the best in the world from literally point blank to about 750 yards. And an AR-15 is the ultimate gun for that. So over the years, I kept innovating the gun, and I was on the range every day, shooting it and going back and forth with the comp, add this port, take away that port, make these vents here an angle to blow the gas and concussion away from me. That's why it's called, this comp is called the interceptor comp, because I tried a comp from a company back in the day. Well, our guy's the best. He's Benny Cooley. He'll kick your ass. And he's a legend, great guy. But the comp had a big cutouts here, and the comp had these baffles here, and I went to shoot it, and I don't like to run earmuffs. I don't like to bump the earmuff with my stock when I'm going madcap running through a shredding kill house, and my earmuff come off. So I run earplugs. So I shot. I'm like, oh my god, my earplugs out? No, they're not. And I shot it again. I'm like, hey guys, like I call them up, and I hadn't won the nationals yet, but I was winning everything else. I'm like, guys, this comp, like, why don't you just fix this part here? Like, what do you know? You're just some new, dumb, long-haired kid. You ain't shit. I don't want to listen to you. Then I go to the nationals, and I win by the biggest margin in history against their guy. And they're like, okay, well, listen. But by then I left them and started doing my own thing and make my own comp. So all these like details in the gun, how it's sprung in a lighter bolt carrier. I don't want a full mass bolt carrier of weight bouncing around, so we lighten the bolt carrier. So it was cool to have these top shooters start becoming friends. We're shooting together and watching all their guns start going to carbon fiber handguards, smaller barrels from a 20-inch to an 18-inch to a 16-inch, and lighter butt stocks and everything over the years. And I was kind of proud that I was able to start that whole change in the competition world.
That's crazy. Do any of the video game companies like Activision or Treyarch, do they ever consult with you or any of the other armorers about guns or ammo or anything like that? I feel like those games are getting better. They're getting a little bit more accurate, especially the thing where you talk about putting the sight on there with the ARs. That's new. The Dragon Breath. There seems to be a lot of correlation between the two.
I mean, I've had Greg Goodrich, other video guys out there for games in the past. I haven't gone super deep into the game thing, but they watch all the videos. They see all the stuff. They know the technology. There's a thing called Ghosts of Tavar that we got all like our John Wick guns in there and stuff recently. And all that. And yeah, I need to probably push more into the video game world. It's kind of fun, but yeah, I mean, the one thing I love about the video games is they've got it down pretty well. When they switch to an ACOG, it's the right radical. You know, they care about the details. Those guys care, and you can the way they do the reloads are good. A lot of that stuff. I think they pretty much just go online and look at stuff. They don't need to really hire anybody too often that I know of. So I've been involved a few times, but haven't. You know, we were like part of the I helped with the John Wick 2 games and stuff like that back in the day. But you know, whatever. So.
You mentioned before about your favorite weapons of all time. You mentioned 357, a Glock 17, Combat Master, and a 44 Magnum. You do like a lot of older revolvers. You talked about how a cowboy with some of those weapons is, really really reliable. Okay, do you still you have like kind of a love affair with the older guns?
Yeah, like all of our guns that got stolen, the majority of them were cowboy guns, single action Army Colts, consecutive serial numbered in the cases. You know, my Diamondback Colt got stolen, and I have a ton of revolvers now. I've got a 6-inch Python from like Starsky and Hutch, and I've got my 4-inch Python still. We got our 6.5-inch 44 Magnum original, didn't get stolen, thank God. The exact Dirty Harry 6.5-inch, not the stupid 6-inch from Sudden Impact, but the 6.5 from Magnum Force, Enforcer, and Dirty Harry. And I love revolvers. You know, they're awesome. Like there's nothing wrong with them for self-defense. You know, you don't need to just mag dump everybody. And with the right round, you're not going to have to shoot as many shots to stop your threat. But I love cowboy guns. My brother was a cowboy maniac with slip shooting, and I did enter a cowboy match a long time ago. I didn't push it because it really wasn't about like being awesome at the shooting. It was all about goofy stuff like flipping these cards over and shoot the deck top to bottom, then flip those cards over and shoot bottom. And nothing was more than like 1 foot away. And it was just shooting the most wimpiest ammo in mankind history. Like it's almost like an airsoft bullet. And I know it's more like for dressing up and having fun versus like making, and the guns are not even close to the original guns. They're just always like a Ruger Vaquero, all completely tricked out. And a Vaquero was nothing like a Colt single action Army. So the untraditionalness of it was just kind of a turnoff to me. I know it's cool. I don't want to like diss the sport. I mean, people should get into it. It's fun, but I just wished it was more like a shootout with cowboy guns, not like I don't know how to describe it. You know, it's just it's like it's just I don't like the path that it went down. So, and it would have taken me out of like what I was doing, and that was what was the heat was 3-gun and 2-gun and pistol championships and stuff like that. That's where like the real money is, real championships. And also it was kind of a cabal. Like I don't know if that's a good analogy, but the 3 or 4 guys started it and nobody gets anything. They get tons of guns from Colt and everybody, and they keep everything. They're brutal to their crowd. There's no prizes to be won. Like lead dispensers right down the street here was incredible at this cowboy stuff, all these cool guns. Spencer Hoagland. And get some trophies, but the guys that started hog everything. It's like, I don't want to be part of that. What the hell are they doing? Kick those old turds out of there and get this thing rolling, you know? So they'll probably yell at me for that. I don't give a shit. So.
The movies that you thought were the best as far as gun accuracy and the worst. You talked about one with Kevin Costner. Where he said the editor kind of screwed it up. Can you talk about like maybe your favorite movies where it seemed like it was the most accurate and you enjoyed it the most, or the ones that maybe you enjoyed? Like I enjoyed First Blood, right? But obviously a lot of the stuff wasn't realistic. Can you talk about the difference there?
Yeah. Well, like First Blood, the first one is one of the best movies ever made. I love that movie. It's a fantastic movie. It just, what are you doing? What's in the back? An M60. Yeah. Anyway, he doesn't really shoot anybody in that movie, which is people don't really realize that he doesn't shoot anybody, but he shoots Brian Dennehy's legs and he falls to the top, and he's shooting from the hip with an M60. That's fine. He's actually aiming one part. But like one of the older ones is The Getaway with Steve McQueen.
Okay,
loading all the time. He's got his 45. He like press checks. There is a big gaff in the movie that pisses me off. I talked about where the armor fucked it up because I think he was like pissed off because the Altieri guy, who's a great bad guy for like 4 movies. He was in The Godfather. He stabs the guy's hand and all that sickening scene. He was in Mr. Majestic with Steve McQueen and with Bronson, and blows him out the window with a shotgun and kills him. And that guy's always got a python. He's like a python actor. python, a 6-inch python. So in this famous scene in The Getaway, they rob this bank. And he's going to double cross McQueen. McQueen's got a 45, 1911 kind of, like behind the suitcase. And this guy's got his python behind his back, up his back. And he's going to double cross him. He's already killed his other friend, shot him in the balls in the car and threw him out in the street. It's a Peckinpah movie. So Sam Peckinpah had like the first big squibs, bitch and bullet holes, like in what was that amazing movie, The Wild Bunch? Just crazy, just insane action, right? Like insane. More edits in that final shootout than any movie in history to this date. So I love his movies. He's brutal. So in that scene, he goes to double cross McQueen, and McQueen pops out the 45 and shoots him and rolls down the hill, like shoots him like 7 times. Shoots one more to finish him, but he hits him in the shoulder. McQueen doesn't realize he's got body armor on. Then in the scene, the Altieri guy's climbing up the hill with the python. He's digging this Colt python into the dirt and just smashing the nose of this beautiful vent-ribbed gun, and it's all mud in the front of it. So they show the gun throughout the movie here and there. They film movies out of order. For the final shootout, the armorer, like a dick or whatever happened, he swapped it out for a piece of shit Colt Trooper, which was the half-price special turd of the Colt Python. And I'm like, oh, you dick, because they show him sticking against Dove Taylor's nose. It was like, what room is he in? And all that stuff. I'm like, it's not a Python anymore. What are you doing, you stupid armor? Can't you just keep one gun with one star? Like there's a scene in like the third Matt Damon Bourne Identity where the guy from Succession, Brian Cox, whatever, in this room, and there's only 2 people in there, and they got a SIG. It says SIG. He's holding it to his head. SIG 226. Hammer, gun, and it says the name. Next shot from this angle. Glock 19, Glock 17. There's nobody in the room. It's like a vault room. There's like 3 actors in the scene, and just a stupid ass armorer during like a week of editing switches the guns out, and nobody's paying attention. They don't know guns, and it goes from SIG to Glock, SIG to Glock. It's like, oh my God, you jackass! Go get your craft services somewhere else. And I hate that. But the movie has a great shootout at the end, regardless of the gun gaff. It's too much to talk about. The shotgun scenes, and you got McQueen like loading, all kinds of different loads and press checking and all the cool stuff. It's a great shootout. Heat, of course, always stands out. That's got Michael Mann. I told the story before. He shot Southwest Pistol League, so I've been shooting there since 1997. I've got like 45 championships there and all this stuff. And he was shooting back there in the 80s with Jim Zubiani. So Jim Zubiani was a champion. He knew guns, and because Michael Mann loved 45s and 1911s and shooting, he put that like in Manhunter. There's a scene where he's giving him like the little Colt, the Charter Arms Bulldog with the Glazer safety slugs. You have actual Glazer safety slugs with the weird blue tips. And there's a scene in the Miami Vice first episode where Jim Zubiani is like standing there and he shreds a bunch of guys in a limousine with a freaking Spaz 12, and this cop runs up, freeze, put it down, put the gun down. And he goes into like a total like stance, like just like in competition, a wrist above shoulder stance, and draws from concealed carry, a 45, and does a Mozambique on the guy super fast. It's amazing. It's speeded up a hair, but just a hair, but it's fast as hell. He clears the gun out, drops it down. And like, there's no way any normal person could. And it's still talked about to this day. Every year it comes up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Jim Zubiani's scene, and they wanted to kill off the lead main cop on the show. He kills the guy from. Remember that Spanish actor from Barney Miller who's so likable and
I don't.
Whatever in a million movies like Papillon with Steve McQueen. They kill him off, and they get Castillo, which is Edward James Olmos, which was a great cast change because. So sinister, he's so dark, he's such a fucking dick, but it makes the show good. It's not like, hey Captain, what's up, Captain? Hey, what do you have for breakfast? Like, it made Miami Vice such a great show. And you watch the show, there's so many amazing guns on the show, so many major stars. You got Bruce Willis on the show, you got Liam Neeson showed up, you got Julia Roberts. Like, it's launched everybody. If you go back in time and you're bored, want to watch them, you're tired of watching, Stranger Things, whatever, watch the original Miami Vice. The action, the shooting, and also Don Johnson knows his shit. He knows how to shoot. He put the time in. I talked to Jim, got to finally meet Jim. I was shooting the Nationals. He was there. I got to meet him. We talked. I got him on this episode of Shooting USA. I'm like, guys, this guy here's a legend. Don't write him off as some old man. He's a legend. They did a whole show about him. I made it happen. I wanted his day in the sun. And you watch the show, the cool custom 45s, and then also Don Johnson's Bren 10. That gun's badass. It's like a 10 millimeter, 14 shot, 13 shot 10 millimeter. And they added the Dirty Harry sound effect, which is super cool. Which was super cool. So I love that show. But I got to work on Miami Vice in the reboot with Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell. And I was a little bummed because, it didn't turn out like, any of us wanted. And I got to build the custom gun for the Crockett character. So I was super excited. And I'm doing the Crockett gun, and it's an infinity, and it's got a compensator, and it's a 45, and all this stuff. And it's going to be so amazing. And then the movie comes out at the National with all my friends in Bend, Oregon, and the whole gun's cut out of the movie. All you see in one scene, he goes like this. He goes like Colin Farrell's load up scene, getting all the guns ready. He goes like, puts it down. So, but yeah, back to Michael Mann. I think Heat has one of the best shootouts. And here's a weird story. You might have already heard about it. Did you know they made Heat before they made Heat?
What do you mean?
So Heat came out in 1995, right?
Okay,
All love it.
Of course, incredible movie.
So you can go on YouTube right now and look up LA Takedown.
Oh yes, of course. So this is also they reenact this in Grand Theft Auto 5. They do the same thing where they put on the suits. They reenact the same robbery from there. It was some Los Angeles suburb where these three guys rob the bank. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about when Miami Vice ended in like 1989.
Okay.
Michael Mann wanted to immediately start something new. So he made a pilot called LA Takedown.
Okay.
With James MacArthur and Michael Rooker's in and a bunch of other actors. And it was basically LA cops. It has a big bank. It's exactly Heat.
Okay.
Every scene, every line, every character, Wayne Grove, and all of them is in this movie. The whole scene with the whole diner scene. When you come around this corner, I will not hesitate. Yeah. I will take you. You can watch the whole exact movie, the bank shootout, shot for shot. And he told his cast, because Michael Mann is a tough motherfucker. I've worked with him. He's just such a dick to people, but he gets his shit done. Whatever. I shouldn't say whatever. He told everyone on set, like, if you tell De Niro and Pacino that I did this movie 6 years ago, you're fucking fired. And everybody shut their mouth because he didn't want them to think, like, what are we doing? A reboot? A retread? So I'm glad they did Heat because Heat is fantastic. It's way better than LA Takedown. Yeah. But if you go on YouTube and put an LA Takedown, you'll watch every single scene, every line from Heat.
That's crazy. No, what I was referring to, I don't know if you've ever seen the bank robbery where these three guys are in these suits that can take, I can't remember what they're called, but these suits can take like long rifle rounds, and they come out of the bank.
The one in 1997,
yeah.
LA. Yeah. I was like 10 miles from when that was going down, buying ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the craziest thing.
They recreate that exact thing in Grand Theft Auto. Like that, you're out in the suburbs, you're wearing the suits. Yeah, that's what I thought you were referring to before. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that is like Heat in real life. Yeah,
for sure. I'm gonna show my girlfriend Heat. I'm sure she's never seen it. But yeah, that's what great movie. What about Zero Dark 30? Do you ever watch any of the military movies like that?
Yeah, terrific movie across the board. My favorite scene is when she sees the guy in the hallway. It's such a great. It's a terrific movie. It's even got Chris Pratt doing like a small part and everybody in it. That's a terrific movie.
All right, so that's a great transition. You have had limitless celebrities come and train with you at Taran Tactical. Can you talk about what was it like initially? Who were some of the big names that you have? Were you ever starstruck? And then who do you think performed the best? And then, what were some of the reactions that you got from that?
Well, they did 13 hours at my place. So they brought the whole cast out for that.
This is about the raid on Mogadishu. That movie about 13 hours. Got it. Not Mogadishu. In Tripoli. Not what's the other city in Libya? I can't remember what it is. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So Harry Humphreys was getting the weapons and stuff ready. He's done all the Michael Bay stuff. So he did like Cheers the Sun. He did Black Hawk Down, and he was so kind because he would let me be part of it. So they brought out the cast for 13 hours. they're training everybody for like 2 weeks.
So
running around.
John Krasinski, was he there for that?
Here's my little story. This is what Harry likes to do. He has his guys running through all the military training, all the basic stuff. They're at my place doing their thing. I'm not really doing anything, just here and there, because he also did The Kingdom there and other movies through Harry. Harry's such a wonderful guy. He's actually in movies. He's like in the scene in Bad Boys 2. He's like up there is like, there's landmines there, you're gonna get blown up. Or he's in The Rock. He's like saying the part about what the bomb could do to kill everybody. So he gets parts. He's good. His little acting parts is amazing. So the last day, it's weeks and weeks of training. People are getting tired. They're doing all that. I don't know what I've been told. I'll run around the place. And so he always does this. It's so funny. I'm like his, like, I don't know what you call it, like his little hired gun. So he has his trainers there and they're doing their thing. So they got Krasinski and everybody on my plate rack. I got the 6 plates over there. And they're firing and they're doing their stuff. They didn't put really a lot of time into like really shooting as much as just doing like learning how to shoot the saw machine gun and doing this stuff. So he's like, all right, everybody. All right, here's Taran. He's going to do something. I walk up and Krasinski's there. They've been shooting the plate rack and they're doing like, their time to knock the plates down is like 14 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever, an extra reload for 6 plates, whatever. And I get up there and I draw my Glock and I do it in under 2 seconds, like 161.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. Krasinski's like, holy shit, dog, what the fuck was that? And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? It was so freaking fun that he lets me do those little moments, So we do that. Now they all start lining up. We start running through like the last hour. I put a little competition on. I made sure I kind of fudged it to make sure John won because he actually was beating everybody. And it was just such a cool thing. He's had me do that like multiple times. It's super funny. So it's just wonderful to work with him and the different projects we've worked on in the past.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's 13 Hours in Benghazi, by the way. The book is fantastic also. It was one of the rare movies, if you guys want to see something interesting, that movie got incredibly good reviews from the people who watched it and incredibly bad reviews from the critics because the movie called into question severely the Obama administration. And so it was really weird. It was one of the strange movies that I'd seen where one side thought it was terrific and the other side thought it was terrible. So it was really interesting about that movie.
Yeah. Action's great, and it's like real squibs, real bomb effects. Of course, every movie's got CG now, but Michael Bay. What I love about him is he still tries to keep more practical effects that he can, like real blanks, not just CG everything, and going to toy guns and stuff like that, which has been happening a lot lately.
Do blanks have kickback? I've never fired blanks before because I noticed in some, like especially in the John Wick movies, I see kickback. So. Is that from the blanks? Obviously, they're not firing any real rounds during the movie, right? So, like, how does that whole thing work?
Yeah, they don't have like real kickback, like a real gun, like a real ammo, but they do cycle and they do move the gun around. If you hold it too tight, it won't have much kickback. But if you hold it kind of a little bit softer, it'll simulate more of a kickback. It's hard to fake kickback when you're doing a CG flame in the front.
Yeah.
So they just they just shoot and it's cycling and doing their thing. It's the recoil because with semi-autos you're going so fast it's hard to like fake a bunch of fake recoil in that. It's literally almost impossible. It'll look stupid. But when it's a revolver, like Clint Eastwood was always brilliant for his movies. I mean, the 44 Magnum would have been stupid if he had it out there and just went like and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So shoots, he has the gun come up. And it adds that and it makes it seem powerful because in real life, 44 Magnum kicks up in the air. It really kicks.
Yeah.
So and Clint's always done that.
Who else? So, I mean, obviously you mentioned before that Keanu, he puts in a ton of work. So he's really, really good at his craft. Were there any other guys that you had, Hoyce Gracie or Post Malone or Chris Pine or Michael B. Jordan that was really good? Jamie Foxx?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, all of them are pretty damn good. Post Malone, total natural, obviously must have done shooting before me. He's really good. The most naturally gifted that's ever walked the earth. No other video, nobody else can touch this in mankind history. It will never happen ever again. That's never shot before is Lewis Hamilton.
Wow. There's
nothing like it. The video, that was his first day ever shooting. I called him later going like, have you shot before? And I think because of his insane hand-eye coordination, his natural talent, he's not a 7-time.
Yeah.
No one has ever transitioned over and did that good in one day. Like there's nothing like it. The video's out there. I've remastered a better version. He came out recently and did even better. But he, for his first day there, I mean, there's been a lot of good ones. Nicholas Hoult is really good. Sam Worthington is really good. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who might be the next James Bond, is in Total Natural. A lot of guys. There's been a couple that were horrific. I'm not going to name their names, but and they didn't really do any kind of a major action movie, just some random actors. But most of them, I think, because is when you come to me, it's a little bit humbling place to be because of what it is. But we put on a really, nice environment, and because of my background in Hollywood and all that, I make everybody feel easy. And Tatiana is just wonderful with everybody too. Like together, we're like this great team, and my team also, all my people, Alicia and JR, Megan, everyone that helps me, Christiani, Tony McBride, they're all great with everyone, and we just make an environment. I'm good at explaining things. There could be a lot of people that could shoot great. There's a lot of amazing grandmaster shooters out there, but they're not good trainers sometimes. They're amazing at that shooting and competition, but they're not good at relaying information, and that's in anything. There's with anything in training. There's some that are just naturally gifted, like Rob Latham, one of the greatest shooters in the world ever lived, amazing trainer on top of it. Same thing with like Mike Voigt before he passed away, and a bunch of others, So, and some that aren't. It's like this guy can't talk.
I'm sure it probably, like what you said with John Krasinski, seeing what you can do, them probably thinking they had a good time when they did something in 4 seconds, and seeing you do it in 1.5, probably it invigorates their mind to think I can. Just like I was telling the story the other day, it's a really great story. It took 2,000 years since the mile was created before Roger Bannister ran a mile in 4 minutes. It took 43 days for the next guy to run a mile in 4 minutes. And then same thing with when Michael Johnson broke the world record in the 200. In that same race where he breaks the world record in the 96 Olympics, 5 other runners break the previous world record. I think just because you see someone else do it, I think it probably pushes a lot of these guys to say, well, if Taran can do this, I need to try to push myself harder and harder, which makes you a really good instructor, because watching some of the stuff you do it's pretty amazing. And my other question is, for normal people who just want to come out there, is this something you go on the website and you can
I mean, it just depends. I'm so overwhelmed. We look at all emails and we find the time. We have different people. Well, I train a lot of the different law enforcement locally. Vegas SWAT, they're really good. Those guys, you don't get in trouble with those guys. And different groups. It's kind of like inviting someone to your house. Like it's not a public range or anything like that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Who I want to shoot with that day. My time is limited, and who I want to spend the time with and who I want to work with, or I'm just contracted for a gig. Like, I'm paid to work on a lot of these films, or I work with different groups of people. So I've got to find the time for them. But yeah, that's kind of how it works,
Amazing, man. Amazing. And then the other thing I was wondering is, you guys destroy a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of those targets. Is there a lot that goes into the maintenance of the place when you also mentioned there's squirrels that live back there. They know that they're not going to get shot. How does that whole thing work with the actual environment? So there's hills around, if you guys watch on YouTube, there's hills around there. There's most military firing ranges are like this too. They build this big berm back there. How does that whole thing work? Are you constantly replacing targets? Like, how does that whole deal work?
Well, the targets that I have, I made targets that nobody made before, which were steel targets designed the same as a IPSC USPSA target with an A zone on it. I didn't put the C zone or whatever, but when you shoot a match, you want to get A zones. It doesn't add time to your score, and that's like the best part, to shoot the bad guy in the center area and then also the head, whatever. And I did that. And what we do is they're one-piece targets. They're not the kind you mail where you got to bolt them together and they're falling off a piece of wood and falling over and smashing your foot and go to the hospital. They're all custom made locally by Alco Targets. And what they do, they're angled, so when they get hit, it leaves a big black mark because they're painted white or tan or whatever. And then the bullet goes downward, so it doesn't frag back at anyone. And you have an A zone you're trying to hit. What's happening is you go to a local indoor range, and you're just shooting at paper. You can't really tell what you're hitting. You bring the target up, and you say, oh, I'm all way low left here. Which one was that one? Oh, this was a good hit here. Oh, no, I'm very good. You're not going to learn a lot from that. Plus, you can't transition to anything else. You can't shoot more than one guy, bad guy, whatever, or target. So with my courses, it's every kind of distance. Oh, the stuff's so close, we couldn't do that. Okay, well do this 23 round course in 5 seconds and see how hard it is. And plus, they have targets that are the closest target's about 7.5 yards. There's rubber dummies sometimes closer for the point blank stuff, which is most real shootouts. And I have pistol shots anywhere on the left side from 30 yards to 75 yards, and I've got mountain shots out to 750. I got kind of everything. So when you shoot the target, you're seeing the hits immediately. I'm seeing them immediately. I know which shot you broke wrong. I know it's almost always the first one's a hit, the second one's a miss. People don't put the time into caring about seeing the dot recover for the second shot. They go, boom, fire two. They're launching a double tap and hoping they both land. You want to shoot and it's two fast shots, bam, super fast, but you're actually shooting two individual shots accurately if you're shooting well, if you're shooting smart. And they subconsciously are seeing those hits and we know what's going on. And they're learning twice as fast than any regular normal range or just paper targets or whatever. Walk up and tape them. And not that we don't shoot paper, we do. I did that for most of my shooting where I'm in shooting. But with those targets, I could see what's going on. I can make you shoot headshots. I could shoot really far shots. I got hostage versions of them and painted a different color. It gives you everything. And there's a lot of targets. It might be too many. I'm going to split them out of the range pretty soon. But it gives me options. It's not like here's 5 targets. I got to walk out and move them all around for half an hour because they're heavy and set up another course. I can give you any array I want, anything. It's not like just shoot at anything and hit it. I'm pointing out I have this red gun called the Cert pistol, and it shoots a laser out. And I'm showing them which ones to shoot for this course. Then I might add even harder shots at the end or harder shots at the beginning. It just lets me, because everybody's time is so limited. Everybody nowadays, their couple hours is a big deal. And
Yeah.
can't lose 20 minutes running out there and moving stuff around. And they're waiting around. And then there's somebody calls and they got to bail. And I feel like they're not getting rewarded for the amount of time that they're coming out there or what they're paying. So I want the maximum amount of training in that amount of time for them.
I can't imagine what your tax write-off for ammunition must be every year. That must be incredible.
It's only 1,000 rounds a year.
Is it? No. Wait, hold on. Is that how the tax code? Are you being serious? Like they only let you write off the first 1,000 rounds?
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
Know.
I was like, is that some new law? That would be crazy if somebody did something like that. Yeah. Limited your write-offs. That's amazing. Man, so this has been really enlightening. There's so many things I wanted to ask you, and this is really great. I love when you were nerding out about firearms. Something that I've been involved with or been interested in my whole life. So thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate this. I'm glad actually we did this over Zoom so you could show all these firearms. I think it's really great. I wouldn't want you to lug all these things to Las Vegas. I hope to see you and come out here in Las Vegas at some point. So maybe we can do this again live. Man, where can people find you?
Just Taran at Taran Tactical or Taran Tactical on Instagram, Taran Tactical Innovations, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the platforms. Just put in Taran Tactical, and we're there. So, and one thing I've always wanted to be is a company that tries to have the best customer service I can. It's not easy, but I want to make sure that everybody is getting what they want and they're satisfied. Over the years of having guns built by every gunsmith on the planet, I've had every 2011. I've got a safe filled with screwed up $7,000, $5,000 guns that are wrecked. That I learned over the years, like this is how it's got to be done. And I don't want customers to leave upset with something that isn't perfect. And if something's wrong with the gun, we will fix it with the parts, whatever. We'll make it right.
That's incredible. And then if they go to your website, what is the website? Is it just Taran Tactical?
Yeah, Taran at Taran Tactical or TaranTactical.
On there, there's just going to be a menu of things that they can purchase.
Yeah, everything's there, and it tells you when you can get it, what's available. I mean, a lot of stuff's available, or you send your gun in or your stuff in, and we trick it out for you and get it back as soon as possible. Just pick your looks, your style, all that fun stuff.
Is there anything you or Tatiana have coming up in the future that you guys have planned at? Tatiana, your ninja fiance.
Yeah. With a bunch of movies we've worked on that are coming out, but I got to be, I'm just super cautious with movie stuff, not to jump the gun with anything, but some spin-offs of some awesome franchises and some reboots of some big actors that careers are starting again, and a lot of fun stuff. I always kind of wait till it's right before it comes out to kind of show anything we're doing. And it's just a lot of wonderful things. She's always active. She's always got wonderful things going on. She's a wonderful person and very talented.
Yeah, you guys should watch Tatiana's reel, her acting reel and her action reel, her stunt woman reel. It's pretty incredible. I mean, it's firing from positions, from gymnastic positions you can't even imagine, and a lot of combat stuff. You should definitely check that out. That's pretty awesome.
Like, little thing really quick, like yesterday, like we're gonna have a big director come out and he had to cancel, so we're on the range and like we never get to practice. We're always just running ragged and going to watch a movie, whatever. So like I never teach anybody hip shooting. Like that's my thing. I've shown Keanu, I've shown like my Mark Paul Gosselaar. Like that's about it, right? Maybe Common. And she was out there, and I don't teach it. It's so hard. I'm like, oh, I give up. I don't want. And literally, like within 45 minutes, she's hip shooting. We just did a video yesterday, and hitting things and doing it like amazing. So she's so good at learning things. Like she just learned sign language in like a month. Like I'm like, what in the world? Like you're signing like she's like this computer robot, like the T1000 TX woman or something. Like
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So, and then she does hip shooting that shoots behind the back and then leans over upside down and shoots these LaRues all down. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
the upside
Like,
down one is crazy. Like, and it looks so natural. She looks like a robot doing it.
yeah, I mean, she's just a super athlete and listens and takes direction. And she's just, wonderful person.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for doing this. I'm really glad that we finally got to set this up. Hopefully, we can do something again in the future. You guys can come out to some of the charity events we do in Los Angeles. Really great to support you guys, man. It's really awesome. I do appreciate the fact that you guys are also educating people about firearms, which is a very, very important thing. And I think maybe where some of the disconnect with some people happens, you mentioned when the Kardashians came there, it was just something that they didn't understand firearms, and it was something once they
Yeah.
learned about it, then they had a very different opinion about it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of skipped all the safety stuff and everything. And like when somebody gets a gun from me, we go over all the safety rules, everything, how to have it stored at the house, the right kind of lock boxes, safes, things like that. Do our best to make sure everybody's safe with it. I just want to willy-nilly just throw stuff out there. And when the whole pandemic happened, you wouldn't even believe who was coming out to get prepared because the world was going a little bit nuts. So
Awesome, man. Well, we will see you soon. Taran, once again, thank you guys. Thank you guys here at Sticky Paws for helping me out. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys. We're getting like 6 million impressions a month now, and it's growing. I just saw on the other day that I have 3.5 million impressions on TikTok, and I'm hardly even on TikTok. So I want to say thank you to all the people. I just got back from Mexico. All the people came up and said that they watched the podcast. It's still mind-boggling to me that this many people. The fact that Taran, you came up to me at a wedding and said that you watched the show, I couldn't believe it, man. I was really, really flattered by that. Thank you so much, and I will see all of you guys next week.